Marathon might have been taking all of the headlines recently, but this new sci-fi extraction shooter, which is essentially the exact same category as Marathon, might be better in every single way. Beautiful, releasing on consoles. What is it? This is Arc Raiders. Say right at the beginning, I'm coming off my second day playtesting this. This is their alpha, it's closed early access tech test that they're doing. I played the entirety of the last 2 days, and I had to sit down and record this video. I was so impressed with this. Obviously, I've been a massive extraction shooter fan, starting with Escape from Tarkov. And while this definitely doesn't have that level of depth for the PC players, realistically, that game's been in development for 10 years. Apparently, it's coming out this year. I don't think anything ever really will. And I honestly don't think it needs to. I think we need to have a game that can really compete more for the masses. That's what this is doing. You get the entire premise of an extraction shooter, completing quests, going in, risking all of your gear to complete these missions, fighting PvE enemies. But of course, this isn't just playing Borderlands. This is playing through this experience, trying to get loot, while also at the risk of somebody killing you and taking everything that you have. If you die, you lose all of your stuff, which I understand is going to be way too hardcore of a game, especially for your more casual player or somebody who's more new to games. But this gives you a completely different thrill, knowing that you can lose all of this gear that you've been saving up, or you're finally trying to take your most important key in on an epic raid. It's like having that Endgame experience of a battle royale in a top 5, top 3 situation, but through the whole thing, if the PvP and that combat can really hold up. And while I have a lot of positives to say, especially right off the rip, it's not a perfect game either. I think a lot of these games are still going to have a potential problem at the end game. Once you complete all the quests, what's going to keep you hooked and coming back? Is there going to be enough content there, enough replayability? Realistically, just like Battle Royales, I think there is naturally a lot. From the 3 maps that I saw and the amount of content here, I could easily sink 100 hours into this. The other detriment, which for me is a personal preference, I typically enjoy first-person shooters much more than third-person ones, but after spending 14 hours in the game now, there was 1 or 2 fights that were like some cheese third-party camping in exfil. I didn't stand a chance at surviving, but there was also tons of benefits that I was able to utilize because of the third person. And the way that the time to kill is balanced on this game, maybe it's also because everybody's gear is just not the best right now, but it made third person not feel bad at all. And I think a reason because that is because this game is just so well designed. For those of you guys that don't know, this is developed by Embark Studios. That is a studio that was formed by many ex-DICE developers. DICE, of course, known for making Battlefield, but also Star Wars Battlefront, third-person shooter game, which a lot of people have recognized a lot of the design from, and I'll even say the UI looks very similar. And I have to praise that as well. Even just going through the menus on any screen that you're on through the whole thing, you can always just hit tab or whatever the button is on controller and pull up your entire inventory and stash right on top of it. There are so many materials and things that you can use to craft gear. You need to upgrade your workbenches, items to get for quests, but all of it is tracked right on the map. You have a logbook that's accessible in raid and out of raid. It puts icons on all the items that you need. When you gather the material, you can go to that logbook, go straight to craft. Literally, the more hours I put into it, I couldn't believe how much was already in this game and how smooth everything was. So yeah, I mean, after all the gameplay, I still haven't been frustrated enough to be like, oh, this is unplayable for me because it's third person. Of course, I've played third person shooters in addition to Battlefront, played The Division, which many harken back to the original Dark Zone for the original extraction shooter. And while that was pretty fun, I think having a game specifically dedicated to that style of gameplay, if you enjoyed that, man, I think you're going to be excited for this. I drew a lot of similarities as well with The Vigor, which I didn't put as much time into, but I know is a very popular console game. And in fact, the first person that I played with in a random fill game ended up chatting with me and telling me that he comes from a long-term hardcore Vigor gameplay perspective and is already also blown away with this game and loving it. Exoborn briefly played their alpha, Another big game that's at a much bigger scale, a lot more verticality, being able to launch and soar across the map. This comes down to much more fine detail, I think, while still being absolutely stunningly beautiful. The amount of times we went into a game, the lighting's changing. There's even night raids in this game. And whether we were looking up at the stars and the moon shining or seeing the sun setting behind a mountain, leaving the lighting completely shifted, while still being able to see in dark areas or being able to turn on your flashlight to do so, and even having the ability to hit F10, hide all the HUD, and just kind of soak in what's going on there was phenomenal. And everybody's been praising the audio for this game, completely rightfully so. Every little minute detail, to even sliding down hills, the dust kicking up, hearing enemy footsteps and movement, especially since the world is relatively quiet, as well as you hear the ambient noise changing from day to night. The weapons sound, some of them sound insane. The explosions do. We were pinned in this building with a Bastion's giant crab turret laying down machine gun fire. We couldn't hear anything talking to each other while also trying to fight another team.
Okay, be careful. These guys sound like they're definitely fighting.
This is right at the top here. This is right at the top. This might be better. Yeah, come up. Knock one. Knock one.
Coming.
Don't you crawl in the open out there! Yep, I found the bison! Heard! Hit him, dead!
I knocked him.
The immersion of this game just felt unlike anything, with all of the detail and how well it actually run too. Like, I'm pulling 150, 180 FPS really in 1440p on these insane settings. Apparently this game's on Unreal Engine 5, which most games that are running this end up running terribly, crashing. I didn't crash and experience anything crazy outside of, you know, a couple minor things here and there. But for audio, what surprised me the most is how good the voice audio is. Even talking with other teammates that are on your squad, there's a push-to-talk button for your squad, so you can just talk to them. And then there's also a push-to-talk button for proximity chat, and you can hear the difference in the voice, the sound bouncing off of the walls. If you're inside a closed room, like the echoey boop, like you can hear the proximity chat difference. And you can even push both of them at the same time, so you can coordinate with your team, even if you're not in a Discord call. And the audio, even with your buddies in that voice chat, sounded like I was in a Discord call. I was so blown away, man.
So there is a raider dead right there on blue ping somewhere.
There should be one dead here.
So, did somebody just
He
say
said,
team
hey,
up?
Want to team up? It was across from us.
What was that? Yeah, come out with your hands up. Oh,
He's knocked out. He's knocked out.
Is he?
where's your squad mate? You got a teammate? Come on over, crawl over.
I don't think you can.
I got a defib. I'll get you up.
There you go. Get that loot somewhere
We're
safe
killing
for
him
us.
as soon as he gets here, right?
Get that loot here somewhere safe for us
This
here.
is so messed up.
You're almost there, dude. You got it.
He's bleeding out, dude. There's no way he makes it.
So we don't want to res you out there. There's a nice corner right here, a lot of cover. Yeah, keep crawling, buddy.
I can't be witness to this.
I mean, I don't know if we can even res them. I don't know. Oh,
No!
Oh, so close.
Jimmy! What was your name? I'm just gonna call you Jimmy.
The base missions in the game start very simple. You just choose one mission at a time, just similar to how Marathon worked. But after progressing through some of the really just like tutorial ones, then you end up getting a couple at a time. I did have 2 that were 4 different maps at the same time, but then I did get one that I was able to complete. Even though it said to do it on one map, I found the enemy that I was hunting on another and still managed to complete it, which was something else I gave Marathon a lot of credit for. You could complete quests where if your teammate does something, you get the credit for it. This game's got it too. That was something that always frustrated me playing Delta Force, especially because that game has tons of missions, which I actually really enjoy, having more missions than less to do. And really interesting way that they set up the NPCs and the enemies on this game is that the only enemies that are AI are literally robots. They're turrets, they're little robot drones that are flying around, or balls that are on the ground, or giant scarab turrets. Any bipedal humanoid looking thing is an actual person, and that is an actual human that you are fighting. So it was always very clear if you are fighting an actual player and you are in a PvP battle. And to that point on PvP, most of the fights, especially at the beginning, were battles. These weren't just like you completely stomp a team and there's nothing that they could have done. You get the opening knock and then they're completely ripped. These were back and forth, long, drawn-out combat sessions. These were like those end games in a battle royale, at least from what we were experiencing, both when we tried playing duos, even when I was playing with some randoms. But I will say towards the end of our day, at least today, we really figured out this game. We managed to get some shotguns. We had some smoke grenades. And in some of these team fights, we were smoking out, closing in, sometimes running away, throw them off guard, then push in and stomp them with the shotgun. Like, we had some good moments. But even once you kill a team, here comes another team right after you. You kind of can play the angles because it is third person with that higher time to kill, get around cover. It still takes quite a while to heal up. You're going to move slow. You got to take shields. Everybody has a base layer of health, and you can upgrade your shields green, blue, and purple for additional health. You can even craft more shields and heals in raid with the entire looting system, which I'll touch on in a second. But I think what was happening, especially because even when we were dominating, killing everybody in the lobby, there was so much PvP the entire way through because I think more enemies kept spawning in. See, a raid starts with, I believe, 30 minutes. It might depend on the map, but you might sometimes spawn in with only 15 minutes left on a raid. You're going into a game that has already begun. You can be spawning in, ready to third-party somebody right away, or spawn at the beginning of the raid with everything fresh to loot yourself. And what made the PvE more fun, for me at least, was how dangerous it was. First of all, sound is incredibly important. If they hear something, they're going to come over with yellow eyes and investigate. If they see you, their eyes go red, they're going to start shooting you. You hear those shots from the drones or the swarms, you know you're about to get pushed because people can hear you from super far away. If you get knocked out, or somebody else gets knocked out, a red flare gets shot into the sky. And the first time I was hearing that, I was getting chills. I was like, are we going over there? What's going down over there? Somebody just died. That's our third party. They could have died from anything. Depending on the enemy that you're fighting, there's like a basic swarm, drone. You got to hit their weak spots in order to shoot their blades out, make the thing crash to the ground. Or if there's a hornet, it's got the front blades are armored. You got to focus on the back blades. Some things are so scary and big, we didn't even want to try and fight it. There's a rocketeer that's drone in the sky that shoots rockets. We ultimately tried to shoot at multiple times, but ended up killing us too many times. We just were running out of there. But I let it mostly focus on the PvP. And if you were engaged by a drone, you could outrun it. You kind of had to position yourself around them and understand that they were real threats you had to go around, but it wasn't like there was an absurd swarm of little things you got to just keep headshotting and it's annoying to go through and clear them all out. It's more of a centralized threat. Of course, till we went to Spaceport, which that map in the central courtyard is just full of roaming. Don't go there. We ran into a lot of problems there. And here's the biggest thing that I can say, because a lot of people were asking for a comparison to Marathon in the first pace too, and maybe you hate me even mentioning this constantly. I just try and frame it up how I see it. Both games are very slow. When you want to start sprinting, they have stamina bars that are going to exhaust you. The characters feel heavy. The mantling takes a while. And I feel like the thing that everybody always says is it's clunky. But I think both of these games go slow. To me, the clunkiness difference is, are the actions that you are trying to take as a player actually being executed on the screen as you would expect? So while I'm running across an open field and I want to look at my map for where the hell I'm going, in this game, I can be moving and pull my map up and look at the map while I continue to move. You can't do that in Marathon. In fact, you can't even scroll in on the map. On this, you could scroll in on the map, see the detail, mouse up, you can see where everything is, and I love that. Same thing, just something, it's the small details sometimes, but when I want to start moving forwards, on Marathon, I had to hit W and then I had to hit Shift. If I hit Shift first and then try to do W, I'd have to release and then re-hold it down to start sprinting. And it was like this order of operations I had to really think about. I couldn't just go. And this, just like most games like COD, Battlefield, whatever, you can hold Shift and hit W and you just instantly go sprinting. And maybe, it's just different stages of development forward as well. Totally true. And I'm not going to go through every little piece of nitpicky whatever for you guys here, but you got to understand what I'm saying. That's what means more to me. And I will say this felt like it's already a launch game. Honestly, this felt better than Call of Duty for the amount of bugs that are in that game versus this, which was the exact same feeling that I had with Delta Force in their alpha, which I've now put a ridiculous amount of hours into. and even Arena Breakout Infinite, which I never fully committed all the hours into, but nonetheless played phenomenally. And while I think as a whole, everybody's like, we're over extraction shooters. Stop talking about stop releasing extraction shooters. Whatever. And I get it. I mean, there's been a ton of them that are coming out, but I think the most of them that have come out have just done such a bad job of it. If you look at Battlefield's release of an extraction shooter with Hazard Zone, which I even recently went back and visited, you can't even compare these games. Or DMZ, that's like, a lot of us really actually enjoyed that game, especially after they made a lot of good updates to it. But this is just so much deeper of a system, which to that looting system that I was mentioning, it's almost more like a survival games looting system. You find items that you can use for crafting, weapons, armor, repair, but you can also sell it if you don't need it for that. Or you can recycle it, take it apart into its components, which can then be used for other crafts. Or even if you're in Raid, dismantle it for not as many resources, or maybe the resources that you would get out of Raid for the best components. But you can still use that to then craft bandages, shield repairs. And the UI, again, tells you what everything is for. If this item is used to craft and exactly what it crafts. Some items are just used to be deconstructed. Some you kind of need for quests and you're not going to know that, or you need it to level up your workbenches or weapons benches that you end up creating. But you can go in and manually track those. It will warn you that, you know, this is the item that you need for it. And it doesn't tell you the price of what everything is worth. So there's still kind of that little bit of knowledge that you get from playing the game where it's like, oh, okay, this item is worth 5K. Man, this other gray item that's a little trinket, it's only worth 1K. I know now I'm just going to bring this one. While still having more straightforward stuff, like if it is a purple item that's worth 10 grand, which I did find a couple mixtapes of, those are worth a lot. And that whole retro style, even it being sci-fi, just cool. Very cool. And while you're also upgrading your workbenches so you can craft and everything, which is kind of like your hideout or black site or your either out of raid thing that you can work on, you also have a talent tree system, which has very significant impacts to your improvement. And there's 3 different trees, each have different branches that go out from it. It seems like you're going to be able to unlock all of them as you continue to play, because you can really reset it. We'll see. This is just an alpha tech test if they switch it at all. But the perks that were on there, I wanted all of them badly. And even if you die when you're playing, you still are getting XP that is progressing you towards leveling up. That's going to give you more talent points for every level that you got. So while there's ton of stuff to do in Raid, there's still stuff to do out of Raid that also isn't super tedious. It's not super menus popping up and all over the place. It's still quite a bit, but not as bad as other games that I've played. And at least from what I've been hearing from the people playing on controller so far, it's all been super. You don't need to worry about like the Tetris and fitting things in spots. It's just specific cells. Similar to how DMZ was. You have a couple bag slots, anything can fit in the bag slot. And in fact, in this game, even weapons can fit in those bag slots. They balance the weight aspect is the other element. So if you have a bag full of guns, you're going to be so overweight, you're barely going to be moving. And while I haven't seen any explicit mention of like Easter eggs, hidden secret missions or anything, there are key cards that you can open specific rooms for, which was a lot of fun. There was really good loot in those rooms. I do think the thing that I am most excited about Marathon 4 is the cool exotic type endgame golden items, and having something that's so insanely valuable that it gives you a big advantage, but then if you die, like, you're really gonna hate it. That sounds exciting. Doing whatever their raids are going to be in these big puzzles while you're also fighting PvP. I've done some long chain Easter eggs in extraction shooters, and they can be a lot of fun, but, you know, scale, whatever that's going to be in Marathon does sound really interesting. I do want to play that too. And realistically, like, I think these are just all going to be separate games. Everybody just loves to compare it, myself included. But I gotta say, after playing these last 2 days, like, I just want to keep playing. Like, I keep on being impressed by this game. And I do think, though, that end game, like, there's only going to be so much content in something like this. It very well could be that after 50 hours, I've done all of the missions that are here and there's nothing else to do. Hopefully they have more at the back end of this. It seems so thought out at the early stage that I got to imagine that there is, but I also wouldn't necessarily bank on it. But even playing through this experience, I think, is going to be a ton of fun. Games for me don't necessarily have to be 1,000 hours of gameplay for me to have had a good time. And I've definitely been having a fun time with this. I'm going to stop playing it so that when it comes out, I can just experience the game and not spoil too much of it for me right now, since all this is going to be wiped away anyways. But yeah, a lot of people have seen the ridiculously long streams, for me at least, that I've put on to this game and have told me that they can't watch all of it. What do I think about it? Hopefully this was a good synopsis for y'all of some of what stood out to me. If there's anything that I missed too in the comments, let me know. I'm going to read through them all. I'll try and throw in some extra comments of anything that I maybe forgot to touch on here, because I'm a bit tired after all of these games, but it seems worth the price to me. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Snowman64, over and out.